Welcome back to SpaceX Daily, Episode 10. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Today is June 21st, 2026. Let's get into today's SpaceX developments. The week's biggest developments pulled together, what actually moved, why it matters, and what to watch next. SpaceX executed its NASDAQ listing directly from the Texas Starbase site. Proceeds are earmarked for expanded vehicle manufacturing lines and continued Raptor engine development. The capital targets the same South Texas facilities already running parallel Starship and Falcon operations. The first post-listing Falcon 9 flight carried the 1,500th Starlink satellite deployed in 2026. With fresh capital now flowing into the same South Texas site, we turn to how that money is already showing up on the ground. Parallel Starship vehicle assembly and Raptor engine work are now active at Starbase. These lines directly address the flight test tempo bottleneck by allowing simultaneous processing of multiple vehicles. Ongoing static fire and test operations continue to generate vibrations felt by nearby residents. Local infrastructure upgrades remain linked to booster catch hardware maturation. While Starbase scales hardware, the constellation it feeds keeps adding satellites at a steady clip. 24 satellite Falcon 9 missions from both Florida and Vandenberg sustain the replenishment cadence. Bluebird direct-to-cell satellites flew on a reused booster, with laser link confirmation the next visible milestone. Cumulative 2026 deployments now stand at 1,500 spacecraft. The same launch cadence that grows Starlink is also modernizing older pads on the West Coast. The U.S. Space Force OUT grant enabled removal of legacy structures at historic SLC-6. The site will support polar and high-inclination Starship-class missions once construction finishes. This expands SpaceX's West Coast options beyond current Falcon pads. As pads are readied for heavier vehicles, the competitive heavy lift picture is shifting elsewhere. Reconstruction of the New Glenn pad began after the test explosion 3 weeks ago. Blue Origin still targets return to flight before the end of 2026. The incident removed a near-term heavy lift option from several manifests. The first hot fire on the rebuilt pad will be the next schedule recovery signal. While competitors regroup, SpaceX's own test hardware continues to evolve at Starbase. Early Raptor 3 shutdown occurred during a boost back burn, with data now under review. The disc-shaped Starfall capsule is scheduled to test in-space manufacturing hardware and reusable return architecture. Success would advance orbital refueling and on-orbit assembly questions. A separate update from Lab Padre on June 18 detailed ongoing ground support equipment work at Starbase ahead of the next Starship test campaign. Crews advance stacking and checkout on the orbital launch mount and adjacent infrastructure. Propellant tank movements and tower arm positioning received visual confirmation during the reporting period. These activities align the site with the target of raising flight test tempo. Observers are tracking the subsequent static fire window for signs of altered hardware configurations. Shotwell stated that SpaceX aims for one Starship launch per month as the program matures. The target reflects efforts to move beyond current flight test limits toward operational cadence. It ties directly into the production rate improvements now visible at Starbase through parallel assembly lines. The monthly goal also depends on resolving remaining booster catch and refueling milestones. Additional launches remain scheduled through the rest of June to build toward that rhythm. One resident in Long Beach discovered that a SpaceX ocean rocket recovery crane is stored in their neighborhood. The equipment supports Falcon 9 booster retrieval operations after offshore landings. Its presence indicates active logistics preparation for continued reuse flights from both coasts. Storage arrangements reflect the growing volume of hardware moving through Southern California ports. The sighting underscores how recovery infrastructure extends beyond launch sites into surrounding communities. SpaceX launched its 14th mission carrying intelligence-gathering satellites for the National Reconnaissance Office. The flight marked another step in expanding the agency's orbital reconnaissance backbone under the Golden Dome architecture. A Falcon 9 booster flew the payload on a trajectory optimized for the required orbit. This continues the steady cadence of NRO missions that SpaceX has supported in recent years. The launch added to the tracked count of dedicated government payloads flown since the start of 2026. Quantum Space secured a Pentagon contract to develop an orbital refueling spacecraft. The award focuses on technologies that would extend satellite life and enable more flexible mission architectures. It positions the company in the emerging market for on-orbit servicing that also includes concepts from larger players. The contract timeline aligns with broader Department of Defense interest in resilient space logistics. Early milestones will center on demonstrating propellant transfer in relevant orbital regimes. Texas environmentalists lost their bid to block SpaceX from closing a section of beach near Starbase. The decision clears the way for continued expansion of launch and manufacturing infrastructure at the site. Court records show the ruling upheld existing permits tied to the facility's operational needs. Local residents had raised concerns about public access and safety during test campaigns. The outcome removes one potential source of delay for ongoing ground support upgrades. An article examined how the satellite servicing economy might adopt mechanisms similar to carbon credits for tracking deorbit responsibility. The discussion referenced the FCC's January 2026 authorization of 15,000 Starlink Gen 2 satellites alongside SpaceX's separate filing for a 1 million satellite constellation that includes orbital data center concepts. StarCloud filed for 88,000 orbital data center satellites in the same window. The piece explores whether tradable credits could incentivize timely removal of end-of-life assets. It notes that servicing and deorbit operations would need standardized accounting to scale across multiple operators. Finally, a quick roundup of smaller but notable developments this week. Intelligence gathering satellites launched for the National Reconnaissance Office. Starlink was installed on Presidential Air Force One, with President Trump highlighting the Musk technology on the modified 747-8. A Chinese rocket breakup created debris near the Starlink plane, while a Falcon 9 upper stage section remains on lunar impact trajectory. That wraps the week's developments. Here's what to watch next. One thing worth watching is how the ongoing vibrations from Starbase test operations interact with local infrastructure upgrades tied to booster catch hardware. On the AI front, the live threads to watch include any updates on Starlink supporting compute infrastructure. From an engineering standpoint, the parallel Starship vehicle assembly and Raptor engine work at Starbase changes the production rate equation in a fundamental way. Instead of sequencing one vehicle through a single line before the next, the site now processes multiple stacks and engines simultaneously on shared ground support equipment. That arrangement reduces the idle time between test campaigns and directly attacks the tempo bottleneck that previously limited how many flight articles could be ready in a given quarter. The same infrastructure upgrades supporting booster catch hardware also feed propellant handling and tower arm positioning. So each incremental improvement in catch reliability compounds across the entire flow. Attentive listeners should watch the next static fire window for any configuration changes that would confirm the lines have reached steady state parallel operation. Before we go, watch for the first hot fire on Blue Origin's rebuilt New Glen pad as the clearest near-term signal of schedule recovery. That's your SpaceX news for today. SPCX is trading at $185, down 5.2%. If the show saves you time, a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify genuinely helps new listeners find it. I'm Patrick in Vancouver. Thanks for listening. See you tomorrow. And before you go, this show is part of the NARA Network, a family of daily podcasts covering tech, science, markets, and more. If you enjoyed today's episode, give Models and Agents for Beginners a listen. Artificial intelligence explained simply for beginners and curious teens. You can explore the whole lineup at naranetwork.com. This episode used AI voice synthesis of my voice. Editorial selection and analysis are my own.